Hello everyone, I'm Brior and welcome back to Goodgame Empire. In today's video, I'm going to teach you everything I know about the Nomad Invasion. This event appears roughly twice a month in Goodgame Empire, and you'll know it's running when you see these two camps outside your main castle. You'll also spot 4 Nomad camps on the world map. The basic goal of this event is to attack these camps and loot con tablets, which you can spend on various prizes in the store. We'll get to all of that in a moment, and we'll also talk about the new Khan's Revenge component of the event. However, first, let's discuss the basic strategy for attacking Nomad camps. The very first thing you'll want to do is spy your camp. Then we'll be attacking it down the center and on whichever flank is easiest. How do you decide which flank is easiest? Well, you look at the melee and ranged defender combat strength values. If the melee defender value is very high, then you'll be taking extra casualties on the first wave of your attack. If the ranged combat strength is very high, then you'll need to use a lot of tools and potentially even event tools to bring that down to 0. Now that we've picked the flank that's easiest, let's fill out the first wave of our attack. We're going to be using ranged troops against the Nomad camps, and we'll send them with the proper amount of mantlets to reduce the combat strength of the enemy's ranged defenders to 0. You'll also want to send ladders and rams to reduce the enemy's gate and wall protection to 0. The benefits of having good NPC equipment for this event are obvious. If your commanders have a lot of wall and gate protection reduction, then you'll need to spend fewer tools. If you have a commander that makes it unnecessary for you to send either wall tools or gate tools, then you'll have an extra slot with which to send mantlets, which opens up the opportunity for you to send some wooden mantlets and some event mantlets, thereby saving tools. There are perhaps a few instances where it may be beneficial to attack both flanks and not the center, but for the most part, stick to the basic formula and you'll come out on top. Now that our first wave of attack has all been prepared, let's move on to filling in waves 2, 3, and 4. We want to match our troops on these waves to those that we'll be facing in the courtyard. Nomad camps don't have any defenders in the courtyard by default, but remember, the troops on the section we are not attacking will fall back to the courtyard. If there are going to be a lot of melee defenders in the courtyard, obviously we will want to send ranged troops on waves 2, 3, and 4. This attack is all ready to go, so I've launched it. The first 10 times you defeat your Nomad camp, it will level up and it will change its defenses, so you'll need to respy and reformulate your attack to continue taking the fewest losses possible. After you've attacked it 10 times, it will reach its maximum level and will stop changing setup. The level of the camp at its maximum will depend upon your level as a player. If you're level 70, your camps will start at level 80 and will finish at level 90. Once you've leveled up all 4 of your Nomad camps to their maximums, it's time to spy them all and compare those espionage reports to determine which one would be the easiest to repeatedly attack. Sometimes all of your Nomad camps will be really bad. Other times, you may have one camp that's clearly easier than the rest. And rarely, you may have multiple camps from which to choose from. I've put up on the screen now the espionage reports of my 4 current Nomad camps. Which one do you think would be the easiest? You can see that the report in the top right-hand corner is bad because there are a lot of lime bombs and melee defenders on the wall. In attacking the center of this target, I will be taking a lot of extra casualties, so I'm going to avoid that Nomad camp. Occasionally it does make sense to attack Nomad camps with lime bombs, but only if the defenders on the wall are mostly or entirely ranged. Now let's consider the report in the top left-hand corner. The center of this report is easy, but the flanks aren't perfect. The right flank would require a lot of mantlets to bring that ranged combat strength down to 0, but the left flank has a lot of melee defenders, which means extra casualties. This report is no bueno. The 2 reports on the bottom are both quite serviceable. I would choose between these based on whether I had more ranged or melee attackers, and I think everybody almost always has more ranged, so for that reason I would probably pick the one on the bottom right. I would, and indeed have been, attacking this camp down the center and on the left flank. The right flank has more melee defenders, which is of course why we're sending more ranged troops in waves 2, 3, and 4. When you defeat a level 90 camp, or whatever level is maximum for you, you'll notice something different. Now the camp has a cooldown period that you'll need to bypass using time skips. Don't worry, you'll get some of these skips back as prizes from the event. However, you do need to be looting them from your NPC targets in green, ice, sands, and fire. Because we know that the setup of a maximum level camp does not change, we can take advantage of that to send multiple attacks at once. You just need to make sure that you can skip through the cooldown period before each of your attacks lands. If you want more information on this strategy, I've got a whole video dedicated to it called Running Trains that I'll put a link to in the video description. Now, as you guys can see, I managed to rack up over 100,000 con tablets during this particular iteration of the event. Just to let you guys know, I did purchase a few boosters to make that possible, and I also wanted to share some information about how the boosters work. You can see here a screenshot of one particular offer. If you were to purchase rubies here, what you would get is all of the rewards on the screen, but I wanted to talk about how the timed boosters stack together. If you bought 30,000 rubies, you would get 2 hours worth of 350% con tablets. It would not be 1 hour worth of 700%. Likewise, if this bonus offered a different level of con boosters, maybe 150%, that would begin after your 350% time ran out. So in other words, they stack in length, not in value. You may have noticed a special kind of tool called con chests. These are tools that you can send with your attack that will increase the amount of con tablets you loot. You can get these from event rewards, but obviously another way to get them is to just buy them. When one of the seasonal events are running, you can get extra seasonal points for looting at least 75 con tablets on each of your attacks. An attack sent without any con chests may satisfy this requirement, but it's certainly not guaranteed to. I find that sending 2 con chests per attack is the optimal number to make sure that you land above that magic 75 con tablet target. Unlike most other tools, con chests don't need to be sent alongside troops, so you can send your 2 con chests on the section of the wall that you are not attacking. What I do is I name my attack presets based on the commanders that they go with, and then I save my first wave setups in those corresponding presets. This makes it so that I always remember to send con chests along with my attacks. When you're running trains against nomad camps, you'll be collecting a lot of food, a lot of coins, and a lot of wood. You probably already know why food and coins are important, but wood is also important during this event. When you go back to your castle, you can sell wood to collect nomad piggy banks. These are another kind of special tool that can be sent only against the nomad camps and also the con camp as well. These tools increase the amount of coins you loot from your nomad targets. You can purchase nomad piggy banks from the nomad vendor. If you aren't doing this, you're missing out on an opportunity to collect more coins. I also recommend that you purchase the Marauder from the King's Market. He'll help you collect more resources and more coins. For players with good NPC equipment, the nomad camps might not provide enough of a challenge, and that is why the con camp has recently been introduced. If you're in a powerful enough alliance, a con camp will appear next to your alliance leader's main castle. The fortifications of this camp are stronger than those of the normal nomad camps, which is why I say that it's primarily geared towards players with stronger NPC equipment. Every player in the alliance should attack this target at least once, however, because if you don't, you won't be getting the con rewards that are distributed to every participating member of the alliance at the end of the event. Defeating the con camp gives you slightly more con tablets and other resources than defeating the regular nomad camps, but it also gives you a special type of currency called rage. When you build up enough rage, you can taunt the con camp to come attack you. The attacks sent by the Khan camp are normally pretty easy to read. You'll want to be using more ranged troops on the wall than you would against normal PvP targets. There are also a handful of special defense tools that can only be used against the Khan, and I would recommend using those to your advantage. Finally, you don't want to be using expensive tools like lime bombs or expensive troops like veteran flamebearers against the Khan attacks. Save those troops and tools for real PvP incomings. For more information on defense, I've recently published a handful of defense guide videos right here on the channel, and I will leave links to them in the description box down below. The other thing that needs to be mentioned about the Khan camp is how the cooldown system works. The first time you attack the Khan camp, your cooldown will be short, about 10 minutes. Then when you attack it again, your cooldown will be longer, and longer, and longer, and eventually you'll reach a point where it won't be worth it for you to use your time skips to fast forward through those cooldowns. Here's the good news. The length of your cooldowns will be reset whenever the Khan camp levels up. Your alliance can level up the camp by accumulating a certain number of rage points, which will be displayed on the camp on the world map. The camp will also level up overnight, so ideally you want your alliance to level it maybe midday so you can take full advantage of all the short cooldowns you can get. This mechanic is really interesting because of the obvious way it encourages teamwork. For the first time, your progress as an individual is heavily based upon your alliance's progress as a whole. Your alliance can't rely on a few very strong players to level up through the Khan camp because pretty soon they're going to be facing ridiculous cooldowns. Instead, everyone needs to lend a helping hand and send at least a few attacks. Because the Khan camp gives out more resources and Khan tablets, I recommend that you spend your Nomad piggy banks and your extra Khan chests against this target. That should give you enough motivation to attack it, but why in the world would you want to taunt it to come and attack you, especially when that whole process is completely optional? Well, for two reasons. Number one, successfully defending against a Khan attack gives you many more rage points, which brings you closer to being able to taunt the camp again. But number two, successfully defending against the Khan camp gives you a special currency called Khan medals, which can be used to purchase very powerful prizes. I suppose there's also a third reason to taunt the Khan camp, and that is to satisfy the new achievements that have been added to the game. Remember that achievement points will unlock better flag symbols for you. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of today's video. I hope this video has given you all of the information and motivation you need to get going with the Nomad Invasion and the Khan's Revenge. Remember that this is only part 1 of my guide. On June 27th at noon Eastern, a part 2 will be released, in which I will talk about all of the different prizes you can get from these two events. That includes the equipment sets, which I assume some of you might want to hear about. So I look forward to seeing you then, and thanks again for watching this video.